On the 70th anniversary of Selina Qiao's death, Lucien Shun, nearly 90 years old, waved his cane and knocked me to the ground. Cry, how dare you cry, the biggest regret of my life is marrying you. Married for 70 years, Selina Qiao was his eternal love. And I am a feudal remnant who cannot defy my mothers, but Lucien Shun does not know that I am not crying for him. On that day, the news revealed a young pilot's suicide note: if my bones are not yet cold, please bury me with the photo of Luna. I only just realized that Malik Liang pushed me away time and again back then. It's not that I don't love me. If I could live again, I refuse to get engaged to Lucien Shun, setting off to the base where Malik Liang is located. This time, I want to save him. On the 70th anniversary of Selina Qiao's death, Lucien Shun, who had been bedridden for a long time, got out of bed in a moment of clarity, at nearly 90 years old. He was so thin that he was just a pile of bones, with deeply sunken eyes and tears flowing. He waved his cane and knocked me down to the ground as I came to help him wash up, again and again, with all my strength. Does it hurt? Of course it hurts, but I feel as if I have no sensation, lying weakly on the ground. Letting Lucien Shun vent his anger, the full-length mirror across from me reflects my aging body. I suddenly think of Malik Liang's face, frozen at 25, forever young, forever unruly. In an instant, I was left speechless, unable to cry. Lucien Shun heard my cries and became even more enraged, his actions growing increasingly ruthless. Crying, you still have the face to cry. The thing I regret the most in my life is marrying you. After 70 years of marriage, Lucien Shun has never looked up to me. He was a talented student who returned from studying in the United States, while I was an unmarried daughter. Lucien Shun, who learned Western culture, despised feudal ethics and old-fashioned marriage contracts the most. He doesn't want to marry me, he wants to love freely. Every time she sees my small feet, she pinches her nose, as if she has encountered a monster, Selina Qiao. But later, Selina Qiao passed away in the bombing, and under pressure from Mother Shun, Lucien Shun ultimately married me. For 70 years, he blamed Selina Qiao's death on me, never called me by my name, and apart from continuing the family line, we never spent more than 10 minutes in the same space. For 70 years, I have been obedient and dutiful, giving birth to his children, and taking care of him in his old age, without any complaints or regrets. For 70 years, he never forgot Selina Qiao, even though they were separated by life and death. He still wrote to her every day. In the letters, he said that Selina Qiao was his intimate friend and lifelong love. As for me, I have a pair of small feet, narrow in front and wide in the back. Like pig's trotters, I know it all, but I don't care. From the very beginning, my union with Lucien Shun was never because I loved him, so how could I desire to be loved? After 70 years, facing Lucien Shun's indifference and anger, I remained unfazed. I thought my life would fade away in numbness. But on this day, I saw Malik Liang again. On the television, he wore a jacket and a winter pilot's hat in the black and white photo. He smiled at me, just like he did a long, long time ago. Swaying the heart with his smile, he still called me Luna in his suicide note, wanting to be buried with my photo. My heart is completely shattered. It turns out that when Malik Liang desperately drove me away, it wasn't because he didn't love me, he just didn't want me to waste my life for him. Lucien Shun soon ran out of energy, and after mourning Malik Liang twice, I also left this world. When I opened my eyes again, I was sitting in a swaying rickshaw. That is the road to the Shun family. In my past life, after being rejected by Malik Liang time and again, I lost all vitality. My parents recalled my engagement to Lucien Shun and closely arranged for me to interact with the Shun family to marry me off. I am the feudal woman with bound feet in the eyes of the public, clinging to the talented overseas student, yearning for Lucien Shun but unable to attain him, yet shamelessly thick-skinned. This time, going to the Shun family is to get engaged to him. I thought of Malik Liang again. Tears instantly filling my eyes, and I quickly called out to the driver from behind, "Master, don't go to the Shun residence, I'm going to the Air Force Base." The master did not ask further, simply said all right, turned a corner, and quickened his pace. It was spring, with the phoenix trees sprouting green leaves along the way, and the sunlight pouring down, shimmering like green. I was waiting at the entrance of the Air Force Base when the young man in charge came back. looking at me with a serious face. Mr. Liang said he doesn't know anyone named Luna Lin. You must have the wrong person. When I didn't speak, the young man let out a tch. There are quite a few female students who want to get close to Mr. Liang. In the past 6 months, there have been at least 80 if not 100. Brother, I advise you to find an honest person to marry. These flirtatious young masters are unreliable. I smiled, knowing that Malik Liang didn't want to see me, and said, he knows me. You just need to tell him that if I don't see him, I won't leave. The steward boy scratched his ear, half believing and half doubting as he went to relay the message. I stood at the school gate from morning until evening, as planes took off and landed, but I never saw Malik Liang's figure. But I really won't leave. The night rain came suddenly. I was wearing a simple light blue chipao, barely hiding under the eaves, and my legs quickly got wet. I looked down at my soaked black cloth shoes, wondering how long it would take to see Malik Liang. Suddenly, a pair of shiny leather shoes appeared in front of me. The next second, an incredibly familiar voice rang out, on a spring night with rain. The streetlight illuminated Malik Liang's eyes. He held an umbrella, his white shirt tucked into black trousers, a few strands of hair falling on his forehead, slightly furrowing his brows, and he pulled me into the umbrella. I said, "It's just a game with you. How long do you want to keep entangling?" I crashed into his arms, a faint sandalwood scent lingering. Nearly a century later, Malik Liang's body heat burned through the fabric onto me. I raised my head, holding his face, repeatedly confirming his brows and eyes, already in tears. Malik Liang. A hint of panic flashed in Malik Liang's eyes, but it was quickly covered by indifference. He shook off my hand. "Miss Lin, please have some self-respect. Our relationship is no longer one where we can do such things." I stood there, stubbornly staring into his eyes. "Malik Liang, this time you can't fool me. I know you love me and that I'm the only one for you." Malik Liang never expected me to say such a thing. He pressed his lips tightly together, and his hand gripping the umbrella handle trembled slightly. After a moment, he suddenly leaned down, enveloping me in his shadow. "Miss Lin, have you read too many romance novels? I told you, I'm just playing with you. Don't get too sentimental," he mocked in the manner of the young aristocrats. But I have long since learned not to be deceived, and I firmly grasped his hand. "I know, because you are a pilot. You fear that one day you might die in battle and ruin my life. I know everything." Malik Liang's pupils suddenly constricted. He had been pierced by his deepest secret. To cover up his panic, he grabbed my wrist tightly. "That's enough. My life has long been entrusted to this sky, and I have no time to play any deep emotional dramas with you. Malik Liang, you are so selfish. Have you ever thought that while you fear ruining my life, I fear that I have never lived alongside you in this life?" I shouted out. Malik Liang was stunned, emotions swirling in his eyes, but the next moment, he picked me up horizontally and strode towards the rickshaw by the roadside. "What are you doing? Put me down." I struggled, but he held me tightly in his arms. "I'll take you home," he said calmly. "Miss Lin, don't come here again. This is not a place for you." He placed me in the rickshaw, turned to the driver and told him the address, then pulled out a few bills from his pocket and handed them over. "Take her back, Malik Liang." I grabbed his sleeve, tears streaming down my face. "Don't go." He looked down at me, the emotions in his eyes complex and hard to read. After a moment, he gently pried my fingers apart, his voice so low it was almost inaudible. "Luna Lin, forget me." He turned and walked into the rain. The rain hits my face, and I can't tell if it's tears or rain. "Malik Liang, you can't drive me away," I whispered softly, clutching the soaked hem of my clothes. Malik Liang and I were childhood sweethearts. I was the daughter of an oil merchant, and he was the most mischievous child on the whole street. No one thought he would amount to anything in the future, until that day, I curled up in the armchair in the backyard of the oil mill, while my mother knelt on the ground, tightening the cloth strips with all her might. The excruciating pain of my bones being crushed made me tremble all over. Just endure a little longer," my mother's voice trembled. But the strength in her hands did not lessen at all. Suddenly, there was a sound of tiles clashing from outside the courtyard wall. "Luna, you cried so loudly that the whole street could hear you." Malik Liang was sitting on the wall, chewing on a blade of grass. He always did this, climbing walls and trees like a wild monkey. And all the aunties on the street would scold him with their hands on their hips. I bit my lip and refused to make another sound, but he suddenly froze. He saw my feet. Twisted and deformed, wrapped in cloth. "What are you doing?" He suddenly jumped down from the wall. My mother hurriedly used her skirt to cover my feet. Malik Liang pointed at the cloth strip on my foot, suddenly with red eyes. "Luna, does it hurt?" Seeing him nervous, I held back my tears and trembled as I said, "It doesn't hurt. Mother is very angry and wants to drive him away. Only when the bones are broken can they become 3-inch golden lotus. Who would want a pair of big feet?" Liang's family boy, this is not your business. I will take care of it. I will take care of her for a lifetime. That was the first time I saw Malik Liang cry. After that day, Malik Liang never chased chickens or dogs again. He started reading books and practicing calligraphy, studying foreign languages more seriously than anyone else. On New Year's Eve when he was 14 years old, he climbed into my yard, holding a worn-out copy of The Exploitation of the Works of Nature, Luna. The teacher at the foreign school said that Westerners fight in the sky using airplanes. He said with bright eyes, "I want to go to flight school, fly the biggest airplane, earn the most money, and then I'll take you to a place where there are no bound feet." At 18, he really graduated from high school. The night before leaving, Malik Liang made a vow to me, "Luna, wait for me. After graduation, I will come to marry you." But the situation changed too quickly, and before he could take me away, the enemies arrived. When I saw Malik Liang again, he was wearing a sharp flight jacket and suddenly seemed so unfamiliar. He no longer calls me Luna, but coldly addresses me as Miss Lin. The Osman thus sachet I gave him was casually tossed into the depths of his drawer. And even when I brought up his past vows, he laughed at me in public. "You take the words I said casually to heart. If I remember correctly, Miss Lin, you are engaged. And entangling with me will only lead to what your future in-laws will say." My heart was shattered by him time and again. In the end, I disregarded my parents' objections and chased after him to the empty school, only to see Malik Liang coming out of the dance hall with a dancer in his arms. "Malik Liang, Dad and Mom are forcing me to marry into the Shen family. If you don't come back with me, I will no longer belong to you." I clutched his sleeve, my fingertips turning white. But Malik Liang just paused for a moment, then bit his cigarette, shook off my hand, and suddenly pulled the dancer even closer. The woman's bright red lips left a mark on his face, and laughter echoed through the smoke. A moment of brilliance welled up in his eyes as he smiled and said, "What does it have to do with me?" That night, it felt like I cried out all the tears of my life. My parents confined me for half a year, and later I finally gave up and married Lucien Shen. On the wedding night, I sat alone in the bridal chamber for the entire night. On the same day, Malik Liang's plane fell into the valley, and at the age of 25, he became a pile of ashes. He was buried in the river. I was buried in Shen's family, and in the end, we both failed to fly out of that long street. But in this life, I will never let Malik Liang be alone again. As soon as I entered the house, my father's slap came sweeping through the air. "Damn it, you dare to delay the engagement with Lucien." I stumbled and steadied myself, my cheeks burning with pain, a metallic sweetness rising in my mouth. Lucien Shen leaned against the ornate door frame, his formal suit clashing with the weathered door god painting. He leisurely took off his gold-rimmed glasses and pulled out a handkerchief to wipe the lenses, as if I had dirted his line of sight. At this point, "Is Miss Lin trying to play hard to get?" A smirk appeared at the corner of Lucien Shen's mouth. "Indeed, you are a remnant of feudalism. Do you think such clumsy tricks can make me look at you differently?" As in my previous life, Lucien Shen's disdain for me was unabashed. He always humiliated me with the worst words, and every time this happened, I could only numbly lower my head and let him insult me. My mother rushed over and grabbed my arm. "Lucien, this girl has lost her mind. Let's make her apologize to you right now." "Yes, yes, yes." Quickly apologized to Lucien. Dad took out the ruler and struck my little calf, forcing me to kneel. Lucien Shen watched me getting punished with great interest, his gaze falling on my muddy little feet. Mother saw this and stood in front of me. They concealed my past with Malik Liang. Dad's ruler became increasingly forceful. I suddenly looked at Lucien Shen's teasing eyes and said word by word, "I don't want to marry you." As soon as the words fell, there was a dead silence in the hall. Lucian Shen's face instantly turned pale, as if he had been slapped hard. He never expected that I would say such a thing. Do you think I want to marry you? He came back to his senses and coldly snorted. My parents were in a panic, apologizing while pressing down on my neck to make me kneel. I refused. Holding my head high and staring at the man across from me. Mr. Shen has your lover, and I have mine. Today, I return your freedom, and you return my freedom. You have a lover. Lucian Shen stared at my face. Nonsense, Shua's heart is only for Lucian. What others? Mother pinched my arm and cried. Lucian Shen stared at me carefully. He didn't understand why I, who had always been just a numb old-fashioned woman, suddenly had a spirit of resistance. The hall echoed with the sound of whipping. My calves were already swollen. Mother pulled my hair into a mess. I was as wretched as a discarded rag doll. But I always stood straight. You are a talented scholar who studied abroad. I, this kind of bound-footed remnant of feudalism, really don't deserve to be with you. Lucian Shen's face turned pale, and he squinted his eyes. Luna Lin, what kind of trick are you playing? I'm just encouraging you, a talented person who advocates for free love, to bravely pursue love. What's wrong? Are you afraid? In my past life, Lucian Shen always regarded me as the villain who broke him and Selina Qiao apart, but he never dared to say a word against Shen's mother. He claimed to want to break free from feudal ethics, yet he himself was a person bound by filial piety throughout his life. Lucian Shen was struck at his core. He quickly turned his face away, stuffed the handkerchief into his suit pocket, and said with a serious expression, "It seems that Miss Lin still does not possess the virtues of a wife. I trouble you both to discipline her well, and we will discuss our marriage again." He didn't look at us even once and quickly left the house. Lock her up, starve her for 3 days. No one is allowed to plead for her. Dad slammed his fist on the black wooden table. He still wanted to confine me like in his previous life. But that night I climbed up to that small window, jumped down to the street, and ran wildly. Running towards Malik Liang's Air Force Base. After the war began, countless women devoted themselves to medical, logistical, and other work. With nursing being one of the most common professions, they took on a large amount of nursing work in field hospitals, even risking their lives to treat the wounded on the front lines. I have made up my mind. While Malik Liang fights enemies in the sky to defend the motherland, I will protect him on the ground. We met again after another air raid. In the field hospital, the smell of disinfectant mixed with the scent of blood pierced the nostrils. I clenched the blood-stained gauze in my hand, weaving through the groans of the wounded. Bed 3, a newly arrived pilot, gunshot wound through the left shoulder. Someone shouted. The moment I lifted the curtain, I held my breath. Malik Liang lay flat on the stretcher, his flight jacket soaked in blood turning a dark brown, his pale lips holding half a cigarette, the ember flickering dimly. When he saw me, his pupils suddenly contracted, and the cigarette butt popped onto his chest, leaving a burn mark. "What are you doing here? Go back," he roared, propping himself up. I unscrewed the alcohol bottle directly and pressed the cotton ball hard onto the bloody wound. Malik Liang shuddered all over, and a thin layer of sweat formed on his taut neck. Ignoring the pain, he gripped my wrist, his nose almost touching mine. "Who gave you the courage to run away from the wedding?" "It was you." I looked into his eyes, mist clouding them, repeatedly staring at his wound. "Malik Liang, promise me, you must not go near the valley. In his previous life, he crashed in the valley. I want to save him, and the best way is to prevent him from becoming a pilot. But I can't say such things because I know Malik Liang would never be a coward. Malik Liang is most afraid of my tears." Seeing me cry, he silently sighed and turned his face away, saying, "You can stay. But I will inform your parents immediately. This is not a place for you. I won't leave. If you can protect the home and defend the country, why can't I? You, a fresh graduate, what do you know about war? War is about death, thousands dying. What can you do here?" Malik Liang grabbed my hand as I treated him. "When the nest is overturned, how can the eggs remain intact? Do you think forcing me to marry into the Shen family will make me a peaceful person?" I picked up the scissors from the tray and pressed them against my wrist. The tight grip suddenly loosened. "If you force me to marry, I will." The scissors were snatched away in an instant, and Malik Liang's eyes were bloodshot. "Are you crazy? The whole world has gone mad. Do I really make a difference?" the roar of planes sounded overhead. And outside the window, the grass was growing and the orioles were flying. It was indeed the April days of the human world, but in chaotic times. Who has the heart to appreciate this spring day? With a clang, the scissors were thrown back into the tray. Malik Liang shouted loudly, "Head nurse, bring in someone with excellent medical skills." He never wanted to look at me, trying to use a facade of indifference to erase me from his life. But he was also afraid I would get hurt. I finally stayed at the Air Force Base. I just didn't expect to meet Lucian Shun and Selina Chiao here. That day I was studying nursing knowledge at the nurses' station when a group of reporters from a newspaper arrived at the Air Force Base. Lucian Shun, as the editor-in-chief, came with Selina Chiao and a number of other reporters to interview the pilots and medical staff at the base. Selina Chiao was dressed in a fashionable dress, with curly hair, holding a notebook and wearing a confident smile on her face. She stood close to Lucian Shun. And the two of them looked like a talented man and a beautiful woman. After the interview, they walked side by side through the courtyard to leave, and the harmonious atmosphere vanished upon seeing me. Lucian Shun adjusted his glasses, coming back to his senses from the shock, and said with a frown, "This is truly outrageous. Do you know that uncle and aunt are searching for you all over the city?" I remained silent and continued practicing tying the bandages. Selina Chiao leisurely walked over to my side, a mocking smile curling at the corners of her mouth. "Miss Lin," her voice was sweet yet sharp, "with your small feet, you can barely walk steadily. How can you possibly carry the medicine tray, being a nurse? Don't joke around." I don't know why she always has it in for my feet. I straightened my back and retorted, "Miss Chiao, there is no rule here that says a pair of small feet cannot be a nurse. And as far as I know, your mother also had a pair of 3-inch golden lotus feet. Do you humiliate your aunt at home like this too?" In Selina Chiao's impression, I had always been indecisive and submissive. This retort made her widen her eyes. And after a while, she let out a light laugh. "Don't think I don't understand your intentions. Do you think that by putting on a nurse's uniform, you can escape feudalism? Make Lucian fall in love with you? Don't be delusional. He has said before that what he hates most is your small feet, which look like pig's trotters and are disgusting to look at." Lucian Shun's face looked very bad when he was publicly exposed for his hypocritical demeanor. He cleared his throat. And Selina Chiao pouted in dissatisfaction. "It doesn't matter how Lucian Shun looks at me. I know there is one person who sees my small feet with nothing but pity, not disgust. That's enough, Luna Lin. You have long passed the age of being willful. I advise you to hurry home." The bandage is finally tied perfectly. I breathed a sigh of relief and smiled, saying, "What are we going home for? To get married? I remember we have already broken off the engagement." Lucian Shun had a serious face, suppressing his anger. Selina Chiao's eyes lit up, and she jumped up, shaking Lucian Shun joyfully, saying, "Is it true? Your mom isn't forcing you anymore. You got it wrong. It was me who said I wouldn't marry." I sized up Selina Chiao. "What, you don't know? I thought such a joyous occasion would be immediately shared with you by Mr. Shun." As I expected, Lucian Shun was bound by filial piety and didn't dare to pursue any free love, or perhaps he was simply too pragmatic. An old-fashioned woman like me was the most suitable as a wife, while someone like Selina Chiao, the white moonlight, shouldn't enter the household but should be kept in the heart as the best choice. Selina Chiao stopped dancing. Lucian Shun pulled his hand away and said, "I'll discuss this with you later. If you have something to say it clearly now. You and I will break off the engagement. Why would I marry when I have a lifelong confidant?" I retorted. Lucian Shun was finally provoked. He grabbed my wrist and said, "Luna Lin, this is what you said. Don't wait until you can't get married. And then your whole family comes to ask me to marry you." "Absolutely not." I forcefully pulled my hand away. Lucian Shun was silent for a moment, then finally took a deep breath and said, "All right, let's cancel the engagement." Selina Chiao suddenly clung to Lucian Shun's arm and looked at me sideways, saying, "People from the lower class are unreliable. It's best to have a written agreement to avoid bothering Lucian later. Miss Chiao, don't judge others by your own standards." I said with a cold laugh. Selina Chiao was the most favored daughter in her family and had never been treated as poorly as today. She immediately rushed over to tear at me. Lucian Shun grabbed her, and she glared at me unwillingly. I have always found her affected manner very amusing, and today I simply said what was on my mind. Miss Chiao prides herself on being a cultured lady, but take a look in the mirror, in your every word and action. How do you resemble someone who has been cultivated by civilization? Fortunately, Mr. Shen likes women like you. You truly are a good match. I could never marry him. Now, it just depends on whether he still wants you. Lucian Shen's expression froze, and Selina Chiao insisted that he swear to never leave her. The two of them started arguing in the yard, and I turned around and left, holding the cloth basket. The sky in the distance was as blue and clear as ever. The fighter jet belonging to Malik Liang slowly landed, and my anxious heart finally eased today. Every day countless injured people are brought in, and I weave between the beds, but my heart is always tense. I am afraid to see Malik Liang, and I am also afraid not to see him. As soon as I finish my work every day, I go to the base to ask the staff what tasks Malik Liang has carried out and whether he has returned safely. Over time, the entire nurse station has been spreading rumors that I am pursuing Malik Liang. That face of Lieutenant Liang, which girl wouldn't be moved by it? Nurse Chief Li was smiling and shaking her head while organizing the medicine box. When he first arrived at the base, those female nurses would run to the helipad every day just to catch a glimpse of him. Isn't that right? Xiao Ju took over the conversation, with a hint of teasing in his eyes. Luna, don't get too deep into this. They're pilots. Their lives are tied to the sky. They fly out today, and tomorrow they might not even be able to come back. Another colleague patted my hand and glanced at Xiao Ju, jokingly saying, besides, who doesn't know that Second Lieutenant Liang already has someone in his heart? Last year, when Xiao Ju handed him a love letter, he was forced to say, young love, unwavering until death. How hurtful that was. My hand trembled. Oh dear, don't say anything. Luna is sad. Sister Li patted the girls who were teasing me. I just realized that 2 lines of tears silently slid down my face, and I hurriedly smiled and wiped them away. I'm not sad, not at all. At that moment, a sound of footsteps came from the staircase. Malik Liang walked down. In the afternoon, he wore a crisp uniform, his hair casually falling over his forehead without any gel. After years of combat, his face had long lost its youthful softness, carrying a hint of sternness. He furrowed his brows slightly, his gaze quickly sweeping across my face, but when he noticed my red eyes, he stopped in his tracks. What's wrong? Are you hurt? He instinctively became tense and stepped forward. The colleagues immediately burst into laughter. Lieutenant Liang, how many girls do you want to make cry for you? Yeah, first it was Xiao Ju, then it was Luna. If you ask me, what youthful infatuation. Just forget it. Malik Liang suddenly stopped in his tracks. His ears instantly turning red, he pressed his lips tightly together, his gaze darting away from my face, and immediately turned to leave. I watched his hurried figure, suddenly laughed, but tears couldn't help but fall down. Everyone thinks I am sad because of his words to the death unchanging. Only we know who the so-called young love is really about. The lunch break passed amidst laughter and play, but this rare peaceful time was soon shattered. That evening, the sunset dyed half the sky red, and the base's alarm suddenly tore through the tranquility. The news of the enemy's raid echoed through the base, and Malik Liang's team rushed to provide support. The roar of fighter jets sounded, with one jet after another soaring into the sky. I looked up until their figures disappeared into the clouds, my heart pounding like a drum, unable to find peace for a moment. That night, I stayed at the base hospital, my ears straining to listen to the sounds outside the window, until dawn. When the familiar roar finally came from above, I excitedly put down the potion in my hand and rushed downstairs. The wind whipped the smoke against my face, stinging my eyes. In the distance, several damaged warplanes were crookedly parked on the tarmac, their fuselages covered in bullet holes. The 21st Squad encountered the enemy's main force, suffered heavy losses. Squad leader Zhong Yu knelt before the instructor, crying out in despair, "Where is Malik Liang?" I heard my own voice, hoarse beyond recognition. "Malik." He charged into the enemy's encirclement alone to cover our retreat. Zhong Yu's voice gradually faded, as if hinting at something. I felt a wave of darkness in front of me, and a buzzing in my ears. Impossible. Malik Liang cannot be dead just like that. Sister Li saw my dazed expression, and she knew what I was thinking. tightly holding my hand, I fell to the ground in a daze. And suddenly looked up to see a wounded soldier in the distance, lying on a stretcher, moaning in pain, covered in blood. In the current situation, how can one afford to be sad? These brave soldiers are still waiting for our rescue. I suddenly stood up, wiped away my tears with force, and looked at Sister Lee. Sister Lee, let's go back quickly. The whole night, I was focused on bandaging the injured pilots, completely absorbed, not allowing myself to tremble. Because I know that as long as there is a moment of distraction, I will fall into the imagination of Malik Liang's death. Is his plane still flying, or has it already fallen? Was he shot? Is his handsome face submerged in blood? Before consciousness fades, Malik Liang, will you have a trace of regret for pushing me away time and again? I don't know how long I had been lost in thought, but when I came to my senses, all the injured had been properly treated. Sister Lee walked up to me, took my hand, and gently urged me to rest. I shook my head and said I still had work to do. Sister Lee said everything was done, and it was time to take a break. I stared blankly at the men lying on the beds, the smell of blood mixed with medicine stinging my eyes. Yeah, it's all done. My body collapsed in an instant, and I barely stood up while leaning against the wall. Luna, don't overthink it, there's still no news. And no news is the best news. Just as Sister Lee finished speaking, suddenly, the familiar sound of an engine approached again. I turned around and ran out of the house. Under the moonlight, a battle aircraft, battered and bruised, billowing black smoke, finally slid to a stop at the end of the runway. Malik Liang jumped out of the cockpit amidst the smoke. He had a deep wound on his forehead. Half of his face was covered in dried blood, and his eyes were bloodshot. He fiercely took off his goggles and threw them heavily to the ground. This mission suffered heavy losses. And no one dared to approach him for a conversation. Everyone stood still, quietly watching him walk alone into the hangar. I finally crouched down slowly in the crowd, taking deep breaths. Malik Liang stayed in the hangar for 2 hours. No one dared to approach. I felt no drowsiness, just stood outside the door, and ultimately couldn't help but walk forward with the medical supplies. The mechanic, old Shu, stopped me and said, "Girl, Lieutenant Liang doesn't even have the mood for treatment right now. Don't go in, or he'll drive you away." I smiled and said, "I'm not afraid." The sky was already lightening, and a cool breeze was blowing. Malik Liang sat under a newly repaired airplane, tilting his head back to pour strong liquor down his throat. Sister Lee said that alcohol has a stimulating effect on wounds, which is not conducive to healing. I hurriedly ran over to snatch the bottle away, already prepared to be scolded. Unexpectedly, Malik Liang raised his head, his face covered in blood, but his dazed eyes curved into a smile as he pulled me into his arms. "Luna," he elongated the last syllable as if he were being spoiled. "Do those people still dare to bully you?" I sat on Malik Liang's lap. He tightly wrapped his arms around me from behind, his blood-stained chin resting on my neck, with each heartbeat thumping against my back. He was drunk. His memory confused to the point of mistaking the present for 4 years ago. "With you here, how dare they bully me?" I said, holding Malik Liang's hand. At that time, he had just started flight school, and I was beginning to attend a women's normal school. My classmates all came from better-off families than mine, and I was not fond of talking, which made me quite reclusive. Over time, I became targeted. When this reached Malik Liang's ears, he actually did something foolish and flew his training plane specifically over the school. All the teachers and students gathered around, and I stood on the playground, watching him wave at me from the clouds. After that day, no one laughed at me for being a bound-footed country bumpkin anymore. Malik Liang smiled contentedly, stroking my fingers as he continued to reminisce. "During my training overseas, I saw a ring in the window, shining, like your eyes." He took out a small red velvet box from his pocket, opened it, and a diamond ring appeared in front of me. I spent all my allowance on it, and my instructors and teammates called me crazy. He carefully placed it in the palm of my hand. "Every time I carry out a task, I keep it with me. I tell myself that I cannot die. One day I will kneel down on one knee and put the ring on your hand." My heart suddenly tightened, and tears finally streamed down my face. Suddenly, Malik Liang held me a little tighter. "But I can't." He trembled as he pounded his fists on the ground. Fiercely, 12 people went out this morning, 5 came back. and Xiao Jiao was only 18. He was shot through by the enemy, and before the plane crashed, all I could hear on the radio was him shouting for his mom. Malik Liang painfully grabbed his hair, one by one. My teammates have fallen. How could I dare to let you down? He became increasingly agitated. The wound on his forehead began to bleed, and despite me calling his name several times, he remained trapped in his frenzy, unable to extricate himself. So, I grabbed his shoulders and kissed those trembling lips. The taste of blood and alcohol spread between our teeth. Malik Liang froze for a moment, then deepened the kiss frantically, as if trying to make up for the time lost. We only separated when we could no longer breathe. I pressed my forehead against his and softly said, Malik Liang, listen carefully. My life has never been wasted by you. My life only counts as living when I am with you. I put the ring that had fallen on the ground back into the box and tucked it into Malik Liang's arms. You keep it safe. I'm waiting for you to retire safely and put it on my finger yourself. He stared at the ring, lowered his head, and rested his forehead on my shoulder. I can't let you fall into danger, I can't. His voice gradually faded, eventually turning into an unconscious murmur. After a simple bandage, Laroshu and I helped Malik Liang back to the dormitory. Even in his sleep, he still frowned, looking so pained. I sat by the bed, gently stroking his cheek, and stayed by his side all night. When I woke up the next day, Malik Liang had already left the dormitory, and I found his coat on me. He still executed his tasks expressionlessly as usual. As if last night's drunkenness and confession had never happened, this mission suffered heavy losses, and with supplies in short supply, the base held a fundraising event. As a representative of the nurses, I went on stage to speak, and as I looked up, I saw Lucian Shun and Selina Qiao sitting in the audience. Selina Qiao wore a green embroidered qipao, and the large diamond ring on her ring finger reflected the dazzling sunlight. During my 6 months as a nurse, Selina Qiao finally got her wish to become Lucian Shun's girlfriend. As if to show off intentionally, she adjusted the pearl necklace around her neck, leaning closer to Lucian Shun. Lucian Shun adjusted his gold-rimmed glasses, ignoring her whispers. From the moment I took the stage until I finished speaking, his gaze was fixed on me, and I wondered what he was thinking. Naturally, I had nothing to say to them. So I stood in a corner waiting for Malik Liang to finish his speech after getting off the stage. His speech was full of charisma, and when he finished, the crowd lined up in long queues to donate at the donation stand. The weather in September was getting cooler. Malik Liang stood under the phoenix tree. Sunlight dappled on him as he looked down at the shadow on the ground. Many years ago, we were like this, sitting under the tree counting the shadows of the leaves. My heart ached. And I quickly walked to his side. After just 1 second of eye contact, Malik Liang turned his face away, his ears redder than ever. He saw my lips that he had bitten that night, still scarred. Thinking back to that moment, I only felt the heat rise to my face, lowering my head not knowing what to say. Suddenly, I saw the back of his hand, which had a cut and was oozing blood. You're hurt, I exclaimed as I grabbed his arm. Malik Liang's hand trembled. It's nothing serious, as he said this. He tried to pull away, but I stubbornly refused to let go. No, if not treated, there is a risk of infection. I held his hand, took a handkerchief out of my pocket, and lowered my head to clean the bloodstains on it. I could sense Malik Liang's gaze, and when I looked up, I unexpectedly saw a gentle smile. Malik Liang's expression changed in an instant, becoming extremely awkward. I smiled faintly, lowered my eyes, and continued to bandage him. At this moment, a figure loomed over. Lucian Shun's leather shoes crunched over the sycamore leaves as he grabbed my wrist. Miss Lin really has a good strategy. Just after breaking off our engagement, you turn around and climb onto another man. He looked at the speech draft in my hand, his tone full of disdain. I still vividly remember the scene when your whole family blocked my house, begging me to marry you. Such a big show. So, was it a marriage scam? The crowd began to whisper. I don't know what he is trying to do to me now. But I know I haven't wronged him. Mr. Shun and I have long had no ties. Rather than making things difficult for me here, it would be better to marry your lifelong confidant home as soon as possible. Lucian Shun's gaze behind the lenses was sinister as he threatened Malik Liang. As long as I am willing, Restoring the marriage contract is just a matter of my word. Why don't you ask your parents if they would prefer me or a short-lived pilot as their son-in-law? These two words are my reverse scale. My blood surged with anger, and in front of everyone, I raised my hand and slapped him hard across the face. Your life is protected by him. What right do you have to speak arrogantly here? Lucien Shun propped his chin and looked at me with increasingly deep eyes. Pilots can only get married after retiring at 28. Do you think you can wait that long? Lucien Shun, no matter how chaotic it gets, I won't let him go. Just as I was about to explode, Malik Liang stepped forward in his military boots and shielded me. How does Editor Shun know that I can't? He tightly held my hand and said, if you have time to care about personal matters, you might as well donate more money and food. After all, he stared at Selina Chiao's pearl necklace. A necklace could buy 10 boxes of antibacterial medicine. The crowd buzzed with excitement. The old man selling wontons spat. No wonder the donation book only recorded 1,000 from the Shun family. The newspaper boy took the opportunity to hold up a photo of Selina Chiao in the department store. It's only September, and yesterday Mrs. Shun splurged on a fur coat. Selina Chiao blushed like a rooster, and Lucien Shun shot her a glance. Amidst the laughter, the two of them fled in embarrassment. The scene finally quieted down. Everyone went about their business. Malik Liang let go of my hand, and when he turned to see me sobbing, the calm demeanor he had earlier completely vanished. He anxiously pressed on my shoulder. Why are you crying? He simply did not dare to guarantee that he would survive. I sobbed. You see, people like him are not even a fraction of you. Malik Liang remained silent. He did not dare to give me any thoughts. Malik Liang, you haven't promised me yet. You must not fly towards the valley. I raised my face. Malik Liang hung his hands down, seeing my tearful eyes. His Adam's apple moved slightly. Don't cry. He gently wiped away the tears on my face. Promise me, you will never fly into the valley. Promise me. Malik Liang was silent for a moment, the struggle in his eyes gradually fading. His palm rested on my head, gently rubbing my hair. Don't cry, I promise you. Through tear-filled eyes, he looked down at me. The corners of his mouth slightly raised, revealing a helpless smile. Are you satisfied now? I nodded. But the tears kept flowing down uncontrollably. Malik Liang sighed. His hands raised and then lowered, finally gently pulling me into his embrace. I promised you, so don't cry. Yes, he promised me that as long as he didn't get close to the valley and there were no variables, he would be able to retire safely. In chaotic times, what is most lacking is change. I had hardly ever thought that war could take my life at any moment. In early December, the enemy dispatched more than 20 aircraft, including carrier-based attack planes, fighter jets, and bombers, to launch a surprise attack. Their targets were not only to destroy the Air Force base but also to annihilate this small city with tens of thousands of inhabitants. After receiving the intelligence, Malik Liang and his comrades immediately piloted their fighter jets into battle. Light rain falls, and the entire city is shrouded in alarms as people hurry through the mud towards the air raid shelter with their families. Sister Lee, the colleagues at the base, and I are continuously transferring the injured. Just as we were transferring the last batch, a strange engine sound suddenly came from above, and a fighter jet marked with enemy insignia approached rapidly. I am already a useless person. What do you want me to do? Hurry up and leave. Pilot Xiaoshu lost his left leg in a battle during the first half of the year. The once lively him is now silent all day. He really doesn't want to be a burden to me. I withdrew my gaze and carried Xiaoshu on my back. You are a national hero. No one will give up on you, not even yourself. The man in his early 20s suddenly burst into tears, but his previously bent back finally straightened up. Together, we rushed forward. No one expected the enemy to arrive so quickly. The citizens, who were originally evacuating in an orderly manner, fell into chaos. Everyone desperately pushed forward, seeking a glimmer of hope, and Xiaoshu and I fell to the outermost edge. With a loud bang, the enemy began bombing. The entire earth trembled, and screams and cries echoed in my ears. Suddenly, a roar came from the front. Lucien Shun was surrounded, his hair disheveled, one leg of his gold-rimmed glasses broken, his former elegance completely gone. He shouted at me while holding his glasses. Luna Lin, are you crazy? At this time, instead of escaping, You still have time to care about others. Xiao Shu's head lowered again. He is no one else. He is a hero, I responded loudly. Lucian Shen suddenly froze, looking at me with a strange gaze through the crowd, until Selina Qiao next to him pushed him awake. What are you dazed for? Hurry up and push these people away. At the critical moment of life and death, Selina Qiao also forgot about elegance. She only knew that the more people she surpassed, the greater her chances of survival. Lucian Shen, did you hear that? Do you want to kill me or what? Selina Qiao said fiercely. Lucian Shen remained silent, swaying back and forth with the crowd, and suddenly, he struggled to turn his body against the current. Selina Qiao was stunned, and not just her, everyone on site was stunned. He used all his strength to run towards me in muddy shoes. Come up, hurry up, Lucian Shen said, bending over. Why do you? Lucian Shen carried Little Shu on his back and raised the corner of his lips at me. Everyone says I am a talented scholar who returned from studying abroad, but don't underestimate me. I quickly withdrew my gaze and immediately ran forward with the two of them. At that moment, several sharp cries came from behind. It was the cry of a child. I paused, and Lucian Shen heard it too. He tightly grasped my hand. There's no time. I struggled to pull my hand out and said word by word. I can't pretend I didn't hear. You take Xiao Shu and hurry to the air raid shelter. I'll be there soon. After saying that, I ran down the back street, searching everywhere, and finally found a little girl in a tattered cotton coat with horn braids in a narrow alley. She looked to be only 3 or 4 years old, and I couldn't tell if she was lost or abandoned. When she saw me, she cried even louder, crawling in the mud towards me. I ran wildly, holding her in my arms, bouncing her a few times to soothe her, and she stopped crying. I hurried forward. Just then, there was another explosion. The narrow alley's mud wall collapsed, and I instinctively arched my back to protect the child beneath me. In the moment of being buried, I heard Lucian Shen's trembling roar, Luna Lin. I was half awake and half dreaming. Having been in a coma for a long time, I can feel Malik Liang always by my side. During the coma, I kept having a dream. In the dream, there was no war. Malik Liang, dressed in a sharp uniform, ran towards me on the day he graduated from flight school and spun me around several times. Then, he knelt on one knee, took out a small red velvet box from his pocket, and opened it to reveal a ring set with tiny diamonds. Luna, Malik Liang, never go back on my word. Will you marry me? Malik Liang smiled, his eyes full of youthful spirit. It seems I have waited for this day for not just 4 years, but for a very long time. Tears suddenly fell, and I reached out my hand. I do, until one day, the images in my dreams gradually became blurred, and a painful voice came to my ears. Luna, are you awake? When you wake up, we will get married. A wave of moisture hit my hand, and the strong smell of disinfectant penetrated my nostrils. I struggled to open my eyes, and through the haze, I saw Malik Liang sitting beside me. His profile looked particularly tired under the dim light, with a stubbly jaw covered in dark stubble. I didn't know why I smiled, slowly raised my painful hand, and wiped away his tears. I woke up, and this time, don't deceive me again, I said hoarsely. Malik Liang suddenly raised his head, locking eyes with me for a few seconds, his eyes instantly turning red. He opened his mouth but said nothing, finally grasping my hand and kissing my fingers, repeatedly calling out a name he hadn't said in a long time. Luna, Luna. The day after I woke up, Lucian Shen hurried over, and he had transformed back into the familiar figure I knew, slicked back hair, a grey coat, and wearing gold-rimmed glasses. However, he felt so unfamiliar. The moment he saw me, Lucian Shen rushed to the bedside with a large bouquet of lisianthus, and I had never seen him so nervous. You can't get out of bed yet. Hurry and lie back down. He gently pressed me back onto the pillow, took the apple from my hand, and started peeling it himself. I didn't understand what he was doing, so I awkwardly tried to make conversation. I heard you sent that little girl to the welfare home. Did you get hurt anywhere? Lucian Shen chuckled. So you do worry about me. Given your previous attitude, I thought you wouldn't care if I lived or died. You don't know me. Yes, in the past I did not understand you, but, he raised his eyes, in the future, I can slowly get to know you. I only feel confused. Lucian Shen, what are you doing? He spoke calmly. Miss Lin, I am pursuing you. As soon as the words fell, the surrounding sounds suddenly disappeared, and it took a while for any noise to return. I could feel everyone silently casting their gazes here. How could you like me? You clearly love Selina Qiao the most. I blurted out my true feelings. Lucian Shen seemed a bit angry. Why do you always push me towards her? I teased the truth. I will never forget how he was infatuated with Selina Qiao in my previous life. But Lucian Shen was even more excited than me. I've completely broken up with her. That's the truth. At that moment, a figure suddenly burst in through the door. And it was Selina Qiao. With her eyes swollen from crying, she rushed in front of Lucian Shen, her voice hoarse. Lucian, what did I do wrong? I can change. Please don't. Lucian Shen impatiently pulled his arm away and resolutely said, I've told you 100 times. Our fate has come to an end. There is no possibility. The more you make a scene, the more I find you annoying. Sister Li and Xiao Ju came over to comfort Selina Qiao, but Selina Qiao had already lost her sanity. And she shouted, we're about to get engaged. Why? She looked at me angrily. It's all your fault, you pretentious jerk. You say you're calling off the engagement, but behind the scenes, you're actually seducing Lucian. It's all your fault. She took off her shoes and was about to throw them, but Lucian Shen immediately protected my body with his chest. He turned and said fiercely, you dare to hurt Luna Lin? Just try it. Selina Qiao suddenly lost heart. Her body fell to the ground with her shoes, crying loudly. Sister Li and Xiao Ju helped her out, and only then did Lucian Shen leave in front of me. He adjusted his coat, and the air still carried the mint scent from his body. The phrase our fate has come to an end, there is no possibility anymore is something I want to send to you as well. Lucian Shen paused his actions. I looked out at the sky, and Malik Liang's fighter jet was slowly landing. I smiled and said, I am going to marry Malik. Mr. Shen, if you have any respect for me, please keep your distance. I am not like you. There is only one person in my heart forever. I can tell you clearly that you can't win against him. Lucian Shen didn't answer, but sat back on the stool, peeled the apple, and handed it to me. Surviving is winning. I can wait. Get lost. I threw the apple at his back. Lucian Shen didn't look back and walked straight away. After that day, Lucian Shen sent a large bouquet of bellflowers every day. I felt annoyed and wanted to throw them away, but Malik Liang said it would be a pity to throw them out. Why not give them to Sister Li and the others? What woman doesn't love flowers? He said this with a smile, showing no signs of jealousy at all. I asked him why he wasn't angry. He pulled me into his arms and said, what we have between us, can it be destroyed by a few bouquets of flowers? In the early spring when the war had temporarily ceased, Malik Liang and I held our wedding at a church outside the city. He wore a cleaned uniform, and I wore a rented wedding dress. Everything was simple. My parents didn't come. They don't recognize this marriage. Malik Liang's family only had his mother left, and the elderly woman sat in the front row, crying the whole time. The only other relatives present were Sister Li, Xiao Ju, and a few others like Laroshu. I stood side by side with Malik Liang, both of us rushing to say I do during the priest's vows. The ring that had been kept in Malik Liang's embrace was finally slowly placed on my finger, amidst the cheers and teasing. We hugged and kissed. In the chaos of the world, life must go on, and those who love must continue to love. After the wedding, I moved from the dormitory to the dependents' village near the airport, where I healed and spent my honeymoon. Every time Malik Liang went on a mission, I would button up his buttons one by one. On the 15th of each month, I would make 2 bowls of Osmanthus wine, and sit by the window with Malik Liang to admire the moon and enjoy the wine. The moonlight flowed over the new scar on his brow, and I said, when there is peace, let's open a wine shop. He pinched my fingertips and said, all right, you collect the money and I'll serve. The most precious thing is the leisure in the cold winter. We squeezed into the small kitchen. He chopped vegetables while I cooked porridge, and the steam blurred the glass window. Suddenly, he wrapped his arms around me from behind, his nose touching the back of my neck. I held his calloused palm with my hand, and everything needed no words. We all try our best to seize every moment of a peaceful life, but we are merely pitiful mortals, and the war is becoming increasingly tense. The longer I live in the village, the more I resemble those ladies. We lead the same life and share the same understanding. Every time I hear the plane take off, my heart rises to my throat. By noon, we all know that if they return in formation, then everything is fine. If they return scattered, then something has gone wrong. I have seen several ladies cry their hearts out, and I know of several who have died for love. One day, I took off the ring and put it back in the red velvet box, hoping that Malik Liang would take it with him on every mission, wishing it would bring safety. Once again, I told him not to fly over the valley. Malik Liang always patted my head and promised me, but now he no longer says anything about life and death. He says he will definitely be safe and sound. Lucian Shen occasionally comes to see me, always bringing a bouquet of lisianthus, which I pretend not to see. In May, Malik Liang carried out a bombing mission on an airport and encountered enemy forces along the way. Despite being at a disadvantage in equipment, he shot down several enemy bombers and fighter jets. The newspapers are all praising their bravery and the victories they have achieved. Only I know how long Malik Liang cried that day. His last brother in class fell into the cornfield, begging for a quick end over the radio. In the previous second, Malik Liang shot down an enemy plane, and in the next second, he had to personally end his brother's life. That day, Malik Liang leaned on my lap, raised his head, and suddenly held my hand seriously. Luna, I have only one request. After I die, please do not follow me in death. You will return safely from your service. Why would I need to follow you in death? I said, holding back my tears. Luna, I beg you, he sobbed in pain. I stubbornly held him in my arms, gently stroking his back, repeatedly saying, you will definitely return safely. You will definitely. During that time, life seemed to be shrouded in a thin layer of sorrow. Although Malik Liang always tried to comfort me that he would return safely, the shadow of war followed closely behind. One morning, the urgent knocking on the door broke the tranquility. I opened the door and saw the captain standing there. I had never seen him so nervous before. He said he had received an urgent mission and had to leave immediately. My heart tightened, but I still tried to squeeze out a smile and turned to pack Malik Liang's luggage. Once again, I buttoned his buttons one by one. I looked at him, with so much I wanted to say, but I didn't know where to start. Malik Liang chuckled softly, hugged me tightly, and whispered in my ear, Luna, why do you always doubt me? I am the recognized flying expert in the base. He ran his hand along my back and said, all right, I will come back safely, and make sure to eat well at home. He ordered several dishes again, saying he wanted to eat. I knew he was trying to divert my attention, so I nodded in agreement. Just before leaving, I grabbed his sleeve again. He immediately knew what I wanted to say, rubbed my cheek, and smiled, saying, I swear I won't fly over the valley. I stood in the alley, watching Malik Liang's figure gradually fade away. Without realizing it, I followed him, and as if we had a telepathic connection, he turned around, saw me chasing after him, and immediately ran towards me, hugging me tightly. Why are you crying? I'm most afraid of you crying. It turns out I was crying, but I shouldn't be crying. We embraced until the last moment, and soon after, Malik Liang's formation flew into the sky. That was truly the longest night in history. I had already stewed the chicken soup early and stir-fried the vegetarian dishes that Malik Liang ordered, repeatedly checking the clock on the wall, but time seemed to have frozen. The other ladies came to my house for a visit. It was more about chatting for courage than just visiting. This is a common occurrence in the village. Sister, he comforted me. Malik is the ace of the base. He will definitely be fine. Xiao Ji crossed his legs and scoffed. It's precisely because he's an ace that his life is short. The better you fly, the shorter your life. Xiao Ji, shut up, sister, he said angrily. Xiao Ji shouted with his arms crossed, which of my two husbands wasn't a master? And now, they're all dead. Sister, he drove her out and came back to comfort me, but my heart was already in chaos. I stayed up until 3 or 4 in the morning without closing my eyes. The dishes on the table had long gone cold, and after throwing them all away, I started to cook again. While searching for soy sauce, I found a metal box in the cupboard. When I opened it, it was a familiar red velvet small box, my amulet. For Malik Liang was actually here. I squatted on the ground, staring blankly at the ring, when I suddenly heard several cheerful shouts from the ladies. They're back, they're back. I ran out holding the ring tightly. A few pilots and their wives were embracing at the village entrance, and I hurriedly asked, where is Malik Liang? Not a single person answered me, and no one dared to look me in the eye. I held Zhongyu's hand and asked again, where is Malik Liang? Zhongyu lowered his head. Sobbing intermittently, Malik was shot, and before the fuel tank exploded, he turned the direction and crashed into the enemy plane, sacrificing himself heroically in an instant. I felt as if the world was spinning, everything felt like a dream. Then, I collapsed to the ground with a loud thud. Malik Liang's funeral was still held in the middle of the river. There was no body, no coffin, only a handful of scorched earth mixed with engine oil. The people spontaneously lit eternal lamps on the shore, the flames winding like a river of stars. I stood in the crowd holding his flight jacket, hearing the old man selling wontons say to his grandson, "These kids flying planes are trading their lives for our tomorrow." Lucien Shen stood behind me at some point. He handed me a handkerchief and said, "I contacted a classmate in Switzerland. The permanently neutral country won't be disturbed by war, making it the best place to recuperate and to heal the heart." He adjusted his glasses and said, "You go there. I will stay here and continue to run, witnessing the day the enemy surrenders." "Mr. Shun," I interrupted him, "I won't leave. Just like Malik Liang, I will never be a coward." The surroundings were filled with intermittent cries, and Sister Li and Xiao Ju both had red eyes from crying. "Luna, you can cry, it's okay to let it out." Sister Li held me in her arms. I shook my head with a smile. The river in the twilight rolled with waves of reddish gold, like the sunset during Malik Liang's last ascent. To this day, I remember every word and sentence in his letter. "Never forget, Luna, when you see this letter. Are you crying again? You've liked to cry since you were little, but I fear your tears the most. Promise me, after I die, you will cry for me just once, and then never shed another tear." I put the ring in the soy sauce cabinet. In fact, I haven't worn it for a long time. Rather than being burned with me, it's better to leave it for you in case you need it someday. "Luna, you are my wife, but you are free. My mother has uncles to take care of her. So you must not take all the responsibility upon yourself. Go live your own life. I never regret giving everything for this sky. I only ask that you never take your own life for me. That is not noble. Save a few more people instead, and live for me. I will wait for you in another world. Wait until you are old. Wait until you are tired, and then we will drink Osmanthus wine together, count shadows together, and admire the moon together. Eternal love." Malik Liang, August 12th. I adopted a little girl abandoned in the war and returned to the battlefield hospital. I saw Lucien Shun again when the war situation was clear. After 2 years apart due to bombing, I am still a nurse, and he is still an editor, under the golden-rimmed glasses. His eyes burst with surprise as he came up to chat with me, saying that Selina Chiao had gotten married, mentioning that he was still unmarried, and that his parents were still hoping I would marry into the Shen family. I was so annoyed by the noise that I had a headache. After applying medicine to the injured, I walked straight to the corridor. Lucien Shen caught up with me and grabbed my arm from behind. He said with a serious face, "Luna Lin, Malik Liang has been gone for 2 years. Be realistic. How can a woman live without support these days? Please let me go." I pulled my hand away and sighed. But Lucien Shen is an extremely stubborn person, or perhaps he has never been rejected by anyone. For more than a year, he tried countless ways to pursue me, even learning to wear a flight jacket like Malik Liang, but I never looked at him more than once. When Shen's mother learned that her son was making a fool of himself, she scolded him harshly. For the first time, he had the spirit to resist foolish filial piety, saying that if I didn't marry him, he would never marry at all. Those were all his one-man shows. For 70 years, he blamed Selina Chiao's death on me, never once calling me by name. Apart from continuing the family line, he and I never spent more than 10 minutes in the same space. Sometimes they ask why I never seem to frown, and I smile and reply, because someone is afraid to see me unhappy. Years later, the war finally ended, and thousands of people flooded the streets, with torches celebrating forming lines of fire dragons. Lucien Shen stood in the crowd, holding a newspaper with tears of joy in his eyes. "We have finally driven the invaders out of our land." I held my adopted daughter Anning at the street corner, looking up at the sky, and in a daze, I seemed to see the figure of Malik Liang, who was also cheering for this historic moment. 240 years later, I was invited to visit the newly completed Aviation History Museum. In the glass case, there were yellowed flight logs on display. and one page hastily sketched a woman in a nurse's uniform, with Osmanthus flowers tucked in her hair. The guide softly said, "This is the last flight diary of Martyr Malik Liang." Through the glass, 25-year-old Malik Liang and I, 65, gaze at each other. In September 2015, the sky was clear and bright. I sat in a wheelchair, watching the new fighter jets fly across the sky on TV. Malik Liang, "Look," I whispered softly, my fingertips gently brushing against his young smiling face in the pocket watch. "Nowadays, our war eagles no longer need to crash into enemy planes with flesh and blood." Outside the window, another commercial airliner soars in the blue sky, with the lights of countless homes beneath its wings. That year, the snow fell particularly early. Accompanied by the first snow, I passed away in my dreams. In this life, I have lived for a very long time and saved many people. At the moment I closed my eyes, I faintly heard the familiar roar of the engine. I opened my eyes and saw an old-fashioned fighter plane breaking through the clouds amidst the snowflakes. 25-year-old Malik Liang jumped down from the fighter plane, his flight jacket flapping in the wind. He stepped towards me, grabbed my ring-adorned hand, and held me tightly in his embrace. "Just like in the past, call me Luna."